So MAGA, the US media, and even some Canadians have been saying for like the last year that the Canadian boycott is just gonna die off and it's just a phase. And one of my favorite sayings that I've always heard from these people is when they say like Canadians, they just can't resist and they'll be back. Kind of like this report that came out last year.
Groups like First Nature Tours are urging Canadians to embrace our natural resources and not be afraid to admit they like Oregon.
You know, First Nations Tours in Oregon, you can go screw off. But all of these claims, I'm going to discredit all of them in this video because CNN just published an article with real Canadians by name, a retiree who walked away from a free cruise, a couple who sold their Florida condo and flew to Chile, a man who skipped his retirement dream to go to Mexico instead. These are real Canadians, just like you and I. And by the time this video is done, I'm going to debunk that myth that all Canadians still love America completely. Now let me remind everybody, in 2024, 20 million Canadians visited the United States. Now, 4.2 million fewer Canadians visited. Now that might not sound like a lot to everybody. I mean, of course, I would love to have it 20 million not visiting, but that's just not possible. Because those numbers are probably including business travelers, people who are visiting family, and maybe even commercial traffic. But one factor for 2025 numbers is that many Canadians booked their trips in 2024, before the orange guy took office. And the fact that a lot of people's vacations were not refundable, like you couldn't get your flight or hotel back. People still went. So those numbers of Canadians actually going in 2025, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a lot less this year. And one of the things we're actually noticing already, I mean, we're in March of 2026. Comparing numbers from last year, January and February, we're already starting to see a decline of like anywhere from 15 to 20%. That's on top of last year's decline. So don't let that 4.2 million fewer Canadians discourage you. Because even with that amount, we already know that we're causing chaos in the United States when it comes to the boycott. How many times have we actually heard like businesses say, you know, we welcome you, we hope you come back, we miss you, to the point where they're straight up just begging us to come back. So I wouldn't be discouraged by these numbers. I mean, 4.2 million, it just makes me wonder what happens if we can get to 5 million or 6 million or 6.5 million. And let's not forget, I'm just talking about Canada numbers right now. We got Europe, Australia, Asia, and the rest of the world. They're all doing their part as well. But getting back to the article, let me talk about the first couple who decided to tell the United States we're done. Meet Bruce and Helen Newman. And I'm going to read this out to you. Bruce Newman wanted to surprise his wife for a trip for her 75th birthday, and the New Brunswick, Canada retiree thought he had it all planned, recalling their visit to New York a decade ago when she turned 65, and they celebrated with a Broadway show. But last year, as he began to map out his trip, he felt the stung first by President Idiot's decision to impose tariffs, and again when talk of the rechristening Canada's the 51st state was bandied about. The final straw, he said, was watching with horror as ICE battled US citizens in Minnesota. He booked a trip to London instead, where he and his wife, Helen Jean, saw the Book of Mormon in early March. Now, I think for a lot of us, the final straw was a long time ago. I mean, for me, it was probably like last year, February, March, when he really started going on the 51st state rhetoric. But hey, I guess it's better late than never for this couple. And I have mentioned in my channel many times that slowly, one by one, people are going to really start to think, okay, you know what, this is the last straw for me. Newman, who visited London instead of New York, said the decision required costlier airfare. This is a lot more cumbersome, he said, although he said overall, the trip was wonderful. Now, this year is two Canadians that would have went to the United States if the orange guy wasn't in office. But they decided not to, like many of us, and instead they went to London. And it's not just the airfare that's more expensive for Canadians. I mean, it's everyday spending, hotels, and whatever else. Our dollar against the British pound is not very good. But the fact that Canadians are willing to spend more to avoid the United States, it kind of debunks any excuse that tourism officials and businesses are using when they say the exchange rate is just too much for us Canadians. Kind of like this guy here from Bellingham.
The other really important component to this conversation is the exchange rate. I want to say that it was right about a 70 cents to the dollar, and we have always known that that is pretty close to the bottom of the exchange rate where it just doesn't make financial sense for Canadians to shop here.
So according to him, it's too expensive for us to shop in Bellingham. Yet we will still go to London, where it does cost us more to vacation as well as to get to. Like I said, I don't understand their logic. But I'm happy that Bruce and Helen had a good trip in London. Moving on to the next Canadian named Todd Johnson. His retirement dream was to do 6 weeks golf in Arizona. I would actually love that as well. I mean, 6 weeks golfing, not 6 weeks in Arizona. I mean, in 6 weeks, do you know how many trees and water hazards I could hit? Or in my coworker and friend's case, the one that knows about my channel, how many caddies you can hit in 6 weeks? And I'm not joking either. If we played a course that assigned us a caddy, for some reason, his ball would always gravitate to hit a caddy. And just for the record, no caddies were seriously injured. They might just had like a small bruise. My old coworker and friend's probably gonna kill me for telling me this story, but it's a good thing that everything's anonymous right now. Now, before I go on to talk about Todd's story, I would like to give a shout out to Avanar from our Discord server, who posted this photo from Meldrum Bay in Ontario. To be honest, this is another location in Canada that I've never actually heard of, but it makes me realize how big our country actually is. So thank you, Avanar, for posting this in our Discord server. Now, getting back to Todd's story, the trips Canadians have cancelled impact numerous regions of the US and rob many states of tourism dollars that had instead have gone to other places, including Mexico and Europe. I really don't like them using that word rob, because Canadians didn't rob anybody. The only person that robbed the US states is the guy sitting in the White House. Todd Johnson is in Mexico now. That's because he loves playing golf, and his dream was to spend 6 weeks golfing in Arizona once he stopped working. The Saskatchewan resident has taken golf vacations in the States for years, visiting resorts in both Arizona, Florida, for fun-filled trips with his buddies. Now, I've done the same thing as Todd. Gather a bunch of friends and go golfing. I mean, for us, it was specifically in Las Vegas. But I have to think back how much I actually spent on each one of these trips. Because you got the flight, you got the hotel, you got the food, the nightclubs, the golf fees, the car rental, it all adds up. Then you times it by 4, and that's how much our group would have spent. After 40 years working in the HVAC industry, he finally retired last year. But instead of visiting Phoenix this winter as he'd long planned, he and his wife went to the Yucatan Peninsula. At a rental near Cancun, Johnson said he was surrounded by Canadians doing the same thing, spent part of the winter months in a warm locale that wasn't in the US. My friends are the same way. They're not going to the States, Johnson said in an interview during his 6-week stay. We're not giving America any of our money. He added, we will vote with our wallets. I think that last line there really resonates with a lot of us. I mean, it does for me, because that is the one main thing that we can actually do. So let me know in the comments, where are you going now for vacation versus where you would have been in the United States? For me, I probably would have did another Las Vegas golf trip again. But this year, we're going to Australia, and I'm looking forward to my trip to Brisbane as well as the Gold Coast. Now this next story is about April Scott and her husband. Scott and her husband went a 5-day cruise on Norwegian Cruise Lines last year, but when they learned that their only option was to depart from Florida, they quietly walked away. It would have been nice to visit the Caribbean courtesy of a free cruise, but Scott couldn't chance it. It's not that far-fetched that we fly down to Florida and all of a sudden the orange guy says he hates Canada and seizes our passports and we're stuck, says Scott, who lives in British Columbia. Now, I had previously interviewed a Canadian who used to frequent cruising a lot in Florida. And even though he had no plans to visit the United States, he still had to depart from Florida. So everything was fine. And, he went on his cruise. And once he got back to the port in Florida, he was detained for about 2.5 hours. But during the interview, he also mentioned too that his laptop as well as his phone was searched. And they might have actually copied everything because they searched it for a good 2.5 hours. So I think April made a good decision because you just never know what's going to happen. One last note on April. She decided against a family trip to Disney World with her children and her sister's family, even though they've had several wonderful vacations at the amusement park in Florida before. The 17-person group will instead go to Disneyland Paris later this year. Now you can see with April's story, she had a free cruise, which probably meant she had, maybe free cruise, free hotel, transports, maybe even free flight. But regardless of it, it was free. And even though she didn't have to pay a single penny, she decided she didn't want it. But on top of that, Disney World was also out of the question as well. And instead, Disneyland Paris is going to get the money. Not just for her, but for 17 people. Now, I know what some people are going to say. Disneyland is still a US company. It doesn't matter where it is in the world. And it's true. I'm not denying that. But by supporting the Disneylands that are outside of the United States, you are supporting the local economy as well. Now, this next story is about Anita and Tom Hitchcock. When Anita and Tom Hitchcock bought a condo in Florida in 2023, they began renovating their second home right away. But after the orange guy was reelected, the Hitchcocks, who lived in New Brunswick, began to question whether or not they wanted to spend their hard-earned money on American products and services for the property in Lake Wales, some 50 miles south of Orlando. You're sitting in Florida and you're spending your retirement money there, not at home, and at some point, you just have to wonder, Tom said of the couple's thinking. They were especially incensed when President Orange Guy referred to former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as Governor Trudeau in a tweet. Tom also questioned the Orange Guy's belittling of Canada with taunts and support for the separatist movement in the province of Alberta. Now you're trying to influence Canadian domestic policy, and that's not cool, he said. Anita said it shows Americans really didn't appreciate Canadians. I always thought, we are nice neighbors. We go and spend our money there, and then we go home, she said. We Canadians are happy to go home. I always thought this was respected and appreciated. So they sold their Florida condo last year and spent the winter traveling through South America. You know, Anita, I think a lot of us realize that we weren't respected or appreciated. Because if this was a real friendship with the United States and the businesses and the tourism executives, they would have stuck up for us. Instead, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get us back by luring us with deals and discounts. Instead of saying, hey, this is not good what you're doing to our friends, you know, we're going to stick up for you. I haven't seen any business or tourism executive do that. So I'm happy Anita and Tom decided to sell their condo, and now they're traveling around South America. Okay, this is the last one I want to share, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to butcher this name. Gilles Huru has been attending the Infocom audiovisual industry convention for decades, but this year it's taking place in Las Vegas, and Huru said he won't be there. With the orange guy, every week there is an insult, he said. Huru, am I saying that right? Huru? I swear to God, I took French all the way up until grade 11, and then after that, I unfortunately forgot everything. A Montreal video conferencing equipment integrator said he opted to attend a similar trade show in Barcelona in February instead. Now, what he says next is really powerful. I no longer have confidence in the current political direction of the United States, and I do not wish to support, through travel or purchasing power, a system that I fundamentally disagree with, Hero said. Now, I think most Canadians that are watching this right now or subscribe to my channel agree with this statement. And it's not just us Canadians. I mean, globally, we're all feeling the same thing. And on a side note, I'm actually really happy that I'm seeing a lot of comments from international viewers in my channel. I love it when people comment and say, hey, Denmark here, or hey, Sweden here, or hey, Australia here, wherever you guys are from. Because it shows that many citizens around the world are aligned, and they're not going to stand for this anymore. Now, unfortunately, it's not all Canadians, and there's still some Canadians that are going to the United States. Stuart Kissinger and his wife Laurel are staying in Sarasota, Florida, which they've been visiting for decades. Kissinger, who lives near Toronto and teaches healthcare ethics, said he's an independent and Americans are entitled to their own political opinions. Interesting. He teaches ethics, but he's in the United States. Cue the Alanis Morissette meme. He also said that the weather in Florida right now is beautiful, and he enjoys running and pickleball there. We love it too much here to consider somewhere else, he said. So let me translate what he's actually saying. I don't give a shit about anything else. I don't give a shit about what's going on in this country, or what this administration is doing, or the disrespect or anything else. As long as I'm happy, I'm going to be staying here. Did I get that right? But compared to past years, he says it's noticeable how few Canadians are visiting. Kissinger also visited the United States in August, and he said that visits were also light on fellow Canadians. We were in Maine last summer, and we were the only Canadian vehicle that we saw, and that's high season, he said. That really surprised us. Well, Stuart, you're the one that's surprising all of us by still going to the United States. But hey, you're free to do whatever you want. But if anything happens to you, you don't expect any sympathy from your fellow Canadians. I can read the room pretty well when it comes to my audience, and I think if we ever had a Canadian that is still going to the United States that was on the news saying, hey, I got detained and, poor me, blah, 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 I'm pretty sure the comments are going to be a lot more ruthless than my video ever would be. And I'm sure one day I'll be creating that video. So what I just showed you is multiple stories of Canadians deciding not to go to the United States. And some were regular visitors to the US every year, and some had investments as well. But I really wanted to show this to everybody to reaffirm that, hey, we are still boycotting, and there are lots of Canadians that are doing it. Because quite frankly, I'm tired of the narrative from the US saying that Canadians are going to come back, they're going to fall for the deals, and we're going to lure them back. I guess you can kind of say I'm on a mission to call out the bullshit. Maybe it's because we're over a year into this. And the US businesses and tourism officials keep thinking that things will change. Now, there's just one more comment from the article that I want to show, and I do encourage everyone to check out the whole article because I'm only taking small parts of it, but it actually has a lot of good details. I'll leave a link in the description for everyone if you want to read it on your own. But let me get back to this comment. Dave Morrell grew up visiting relatives in Maine. His mother was from a town on the Maine-Canada border. The retired sports broadcaster has attended countless Boston Red Sox games and New York Rangers games. Not anymore. It's unfortunate because we love going, and we love the American people we met, he said. His wife, Susan, is hurt that so many Americans can forget the assistance provided by Canadians in moments of difficulty like 9/11 and the Iran hostage crisis in 1980. This last comment by Susan, I think we can all agree with. Many of us know what we did for the United States during 9/11 and during the Iran crisis. But I have to ask this question. How many US citizens actually even know about it? How many US citizens know that we took in all of their planes during 9/11? How many US citizens actually know what Gander did, or what Vancouver, or all the other major airports did when it came to all the flights going into the United States? Or how many of the average US citizens actually know what happened in Iran? Or do they believe the movie version Argo instead, which downplays what Canada's contribution actually was? I can totally understand Susan's frustration because I feel the same thing as well. We've done a lot for the United States. And I know some US citizens might know about this kind of stuff, and to the US citizens who know what Canada did for them. Unfortunately, you guys are a small minority. So I do hope that everybody remembers what Susan said, but not only her, but all the other stories that I shared. And again, I do hope it refuels your boycott. Okay, that's all I got for today's video. I do highly encourage everybody to go read that article. There's a lot more that I missed. If you found any value in anything I said today, or you want to hear more from a Canadian and international perspective, without the US media bias, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button below. That way you're notified of my future videos. And if you want to see more of my videos, check out the ones that'll show up on your screen shortly. Thanks everyone, I'll catch you in the next one.